Hello, I'm Trish. Welcome to the Gig House Kitchen. Today is a very special episode because I have with us my daughter SJ and her lovely dog Teddy.
Today we're going to be making sweet and savoury scones.
So let's get down to it.
So now that Teddy is snoozing on the sofa with my dad, Mum, teach us all about these lovely scones.
Okay, well, to start with, we need to light the oven. So if you have a gas oven, you need to put it onto gas mark 7. And if you have an electric oven, you need to put it onto 220 degrees centigrade. We also need to get the ingredients ready. Here I have 200 grams of flour.
What kind of flour is it, Mum?
This is self-raising flour, which gives the scones a lovely high rise. Also, I like to sieve the flour 3 times to get a really good rise. So I've already sieved this twice. We've also got some softened butter, 25 grams. We have a good pinch of salt, which is about 1/4 teaspoon, and also a level teaspoon of baking powder again, which will make the scones rise really well. I've got here 25 grams of caster sugar, and we also have some sultanas, some good quality ones that are nice and plump. So that's the dry ingredients, now on to the wet. First of all, we have 100 mils of milk and a large egg.
So egg doesn't normally go into a scone mixture, so what's the thought process behind adding one in this time?
Well, that will give colour and flavour, and also it will improve the lift of the scone. So I've already said that I have sieved this twice already, so now I'm going to sieve it a 3rd time, so you get a really good rise on the scone. Before I start sieving though, I'm going to put the salt and the baking powder into the self-raising flour, because when I sieve it the 3rd time, obviously that will all get sieved into the mixture. Now again, you could bang the sieve against the side of the bowl, or what I like to do is knock it against your hand. Okay, so there we have the flour, baking powder and salt.
So what's the next ingredient, Mum?
The next ingredient is the softened butter. So we're just going to put it in. It doesn't need an awful lot of butter, just enough to take the colour on board and to give a little bit of a nice flavour.
And you're doing what there?
I'm rubbing it in. When you rub in, it's quite important that you use the tips of your fingers and not the palms of your hand.
Why is that?
Because the palms of your hand are actually quite warm, one of the warmest parts of your body. So obviously you want to keep it cool so you can rub it in evenly. So if you shake the bowl, all the lumps will come to the top. Once it's rubbed in really well and there are no lumps, we can go on to adding the next ingredients. Now we're making some sweet scones, so we're going to put in 25 grams of caster sugar. And I'm going to put in here the 60 grams of lovely raisins, which are nice and moist. And then basically we're going to mix again with our hands. So now we've finished with the dry ingredients, it's time to add the wet ingredients. So here we have our egg and our milk. So what we're going to do is to crack the egg into the milk. So rather than smacking it against the bowl and getting shell in, I'm going to use the back of a round bladed knife and give it a good smack. And then I'm going to very carefully put the egg into the milk. And then I'm going to whisk it together really well, just with an ordinary fork as you do this. So mix it really well till it's combined. What we're going to do is pour about 2/3 of that into the bowl.
Why only 2/3?
Well, with liquid you can put it in, but it's very hard to take it out. So what I would always say is never add the amount of liquid it says, always add only about 2/3, because if you need more you can add more, but once it's in there you've had it, it's in there and you can't get it out. So I'm going to get my round bladed knife and I'm going to give it a really good stir. Now the consistency is really important. If your mixture is too wet, the scones will spread and not hold their lovely shape. If the mixture is too dry, then obviously the scones won't roll very well and they will taste dry when you eat them. So what I'm going to do is give it a And then, as always, I'm going to put my hands in and bring it together. That feels really good. I'm not going to need the rest of that egg mixture, but it feels lovely and light and soft, but not wet or eggy.
So it shouldn't feel tacky at all?
No, no. Bread's good to be tacky, but not pastry or obviously scones. Once I've got the mixture pulled together, I'm going to get rid of my bowl, and there is my lovely scone dough. Now, a lot of people will get a rolling pin now and they'll roll out scone dough and then they'll have scones the shape of biscuits. They'll be like that. So obviously I don't do that. Also, I don't need scone dough. Scones don't like being manhandled. So if you manhandle them and knead them, they'll be quite tough. So the least you handle scone dough, the better. I'm going to put a little bit of flour down. And as you know, I quite like to flour my hands rather than a table because then you don't have to use too much flour. And I'm just going to give it a little pull together, and then I'm going to use the palm of my hand and I'm literally going to flatten it. How I gauge the height and don't get biscuits instead of scones is I put my thumb down. You can see that's about 1.5 inches, and I put that up against scone dough and pop it up until it's that thickness. And there we have it, that's the perfect thickness. And also make sure it's nice and even so that the scones will all be the same height when you cut them out. Right, we're going to start cutting and shaping them. So could you pass me over the tray?
I can.
Right, here we have a greased tray with some greaseproof paper on.
And I can see you've greased underneath the paper. Why is that?
That's so greaseproof sticks to the tray. And then don't forget to grease the greaseproof on top of the tray because that's where a lot of people sort of go wrong.
That's a lot of greasing.
It's a lot of greasing. Right, over here I've got my trusty pastry cutters, which I've had for 35 years.
Oh, so they are slightly older than me. Oh, okay.
Not by much.
Not thanks. Not by much. Cheeky.
So what I'm going to do now is flour the inside of the cutter so that the scone mixture doesn't stick to it.
Such a good tip.
It is a good tip, there you go. I'm going to then use the palm of my hand to cut. Very important that you don't do that. Lots of people do that when they make scones, because what happens then is you get an uneven rise. So literally just cut them and pull them out, and then this is again a lot of people don't do, but it really does make a good rise, is once you've got them out and cut them, then what I like to do is plop them up. So there you go. Now a good scone you should be able to cut in half without a knife, and if you plop them up like that, that will mean that that's what will happen when the scones are cooked. See how easy it comes out really when you flour the cutter? Again, plop them up so that they're the same height. And the next one. This mixture is very good, I can tell. I didn't add too much milk or too much egg. You get to know quite quickly how the dough feels. You've only got to make them a couple of times. So that's cut out 4. And now, obviously I've run out of space. So what I'm going to do is put the dough back again. And this is where your thumb comes in handy again, because what a lot of people do is they cut out the first 4 and they're perfect size, then they cut out or flatten the next lot, but they don't keep the size. It's really important to have a guide so you always can keep consistency. Again, I'm going to flatten that, and I'm going to use my thumb. As you can see, that needs to come up slightly. Now I might only get 1 or 2 out of this one. 1, as you can see, actually. So plop that up.
That's what we want.
And then this is probably going to be another 1 or 2 if we're lucky.
Oh,
thank you very much. That's why you're here. Here we go. Some recipes will tell you to put the scones close together. I quite like them as separate entities, so I space them out a little bit, and they should rise to twice that size. So now we've made the sweet scones, we can set these aside while we make the savoury scones.
Oh, my favourite, full of cheese. Okay, so Mum, you have rubbed together all the dry ingredients for the savoury scones, minus obviously the sugar. Can you tell us about the flavourings that are going to go in?
Here I have some good quality extra mature cheddar, about 80 grams, which has been grated finely, and I have got 2 or 3 spring onions which have been finely sliced. And what I'm going to do now is add 3/4 of the cheese to the bowl.
What's the last quarter for?
That's going to be to put on each scone so that it melts on top.
To make them extra yummy.
Yeah, make them extra yummy. I'm going to put in the spring onions. Now you don't have to fry the spring onions or anything because because they're so small that they'll cook within the time. So again, I'm going to mix it together with my hands. And so, over to you.
I believe you're going to do the wet
ingredients.
Yeah, so we're very excited in the Gig House kitchen because we found a double yolk egg and our director informs us that's lucky. So I'm hoping the scones will be super awesome. No pressure, Mum. There you go.
And then we've got another magic ingredient here.
All right, Mum, all right. Magic ingredient. English mustard brings out the flavour of the cheese, but you don't have to add it if you hate mustard. I personally love mustard, so in it goes.
You won't taste the mustard. You'll just taste the flavour of the cheese better. Another useful little tip actually is, if you're going to add a dry ingredient as a flavouring, add it to a dry ingredient, and if you're going to use a liquid ingredient to a thing, add it
to the liquid. That's easy to remember.
And then it'll combine well.
Wet mixture is ready, Mum.
Fantastic.
That degree was worth it.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to mix this really well. And again, we don't want them too dry, but we don't want them too wet because they won't hold their shape.
No one likes a squidgy scone.
Nobody likes a squidgy scone. However, because we've got cheese in as well, we probably will need a little bit more of the egg because obviously cheese is a dry ingredient. So here we go. I think that's going to go together rather well. So again, I'm using my trusty round-bladed knife. Now that mixture feels and looks really good, so I'm just going to put my hands in and bring it together, and again it doesn't feel sticky or tacky. Okay, so there we have it, a lovely cheese and spring onion scone mixture. Okay, again, same principles, don't knead it, don't mess around with it, it won't like it. Now we're going to do something slightly different with this one.
I wanted to measure.
We're going to put you can measure in a minute. We're going to put some flour down, okay, and we're going to make it into a round because we're actually going to make these into a triangular shape. Same principle though, get your trusty thumb out, off you go. Is that about right?
I'd say that's about right.
Bend it slightly.
Bend it slightly.
Yeah, spot on.
Spot on.
There you go. Okay, over here as well we have a greased tray, and this is where you can use your palette knife. Flour your palette knife and score the top. We're going to make 8 scones. Don't cut it straight away, just score it. I mark the top so that they're nice and even. So they look pretty good to me.
They do look pretty good, yeah.
So now, again,
you could just make one massive scone and I'll have that.
Well, you could make a massive scone and cook it as a massive scone, actually. Yeah, and then what you could do is cut it, after it's cooked. So there we go, nice little.
Oh, how sweet!
Scone.
These are quite good with bacon in too, but you have to cook the bacon first,
yes.
I think. Otherwise it's either chewy.
And also if you use onion instead of spring onion, you really do need to cook it because
harsher flavour,
yeah, it's a harsher flavour, and a lot of people don't like the taste of rawish onion. Now these are only going to be in the oven for about 15 or 20 minutes. So obviously things like bacon and onion aren't going to cook in that length of time, so you need to pre-cook them. Right, would you like to do the honours?
What do I have to do? Just plonk some on top?
Yeah.
Try and even it out.
Some is going to fall onto the tray when it cooks, that's part of the charm. And obviously I've got greaseproof paper on here again, so if any of the cheese comes off onto the tray, it doesn't really matter.
Trying to sneakily make sure there's some left over for me at the end, but I don't think there will be.
It's been measured very accurately.
What are you trying to say?
I've counted every grate of cheese.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that, there's even some left for me at the end.
There we go. Not for Teddy.
Not for Teddy, no.
There we go.
Teddy gets enough
Alright.
cheese.
So here we have it, sweet and savoury scones ready for the oven. Now we're going to put this in a very hot oven for 10 to 15 minutes. What are we going to do while we're waiting for them to cook?
Well, just before I saw Teddy staring at the door, so I think we better go and have a little play and a cuddle with him while they're baking.
Sounds like a great idea. So here we have the sweet and savoury scones just fresh out of the oven. You can tell that they're baked because if you pick up a scone and bang the bottom like a bread roll, it should sound hollow, and obviously the top is a lovely golden brown. Have a good rise and they smell absolutely delicious. I'm going to finish off the cheese scones by just melting a little bit of butter and brushing them so they have a lovely glaze. Quite often you don't have butter with cheese scones, so obviously having a little bit of extra butter on the top is going to make them even more delicious. So now we have the sweet and savoury scones all plated up and ready to eat.
And they look absolutely delicious with this lovely melted butter glaze. And I see you've got cream and jam there ready for the sweet ones. Mum, are you going to show us how to serve them up?
I am. A good scone means that you don't need a knife to cut it. You should be able to hold both sides and just gently pull, and it should break in half. So there we have the
beautifully presented scone.
Beautifully presented scone. Okay, so now I'm going to put some jam and some cream on, and then we're going to enjoy them.
Now, there's a big debate in the UK about whether you put cream on first or jam. Personally, I think just as much as possible is the only way forward. So just load it up. Make it into a scone sandwich.
There we go. Okay, right, shall we tuck in?
Definitely. So that's it. If you like this video, please remember to subscribe.
See you again next week in the Gig House Kitchen.
Bye.